Hello, Facebook friends. I want to take a moment to share some reflections on this moment in time in our nation, right as we're coming off of Dia de los Muertos and entering into voting time tomorrow. And many of you, like myself, have already voted. Many of you are going to go vote tomorrow. And the reason why I wanted to take this moment is I think that there's some wisdom that we can gain from Dia de los Muertos as we look at what we're about to do. It's very easy to be overwhelmed during this time with all the anger, righteous anger on so many different sides. It's very easy to dismiss others who have different opinions. But if we take a look at our ancestors and see what they lived through, we can get some guidance. Right here, I'm sharing my father and my grandmother. Normally, I have many more people on my altar, but I've been under the weather this year, so I was only able to do something very simple. My father loved blueberries, and that's why they're there. And then pan de muertos, the bread of the dead, is very traditional. And Francisco, the Mexican consul, was so generous to give me a huge piece, so I ended up taking a piece of that for them. Over here you can see the rosary, and traditionally in Catholicism people take each bead and say a prayer. Now you usually do the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, and you just say it for each bead. But anyway, now that you understand the makeup of this, and this beautiful cloth was a gift from Gregory, the Apache people. But the reason why I'm sharing all of this with you is because I wanted you all to know that there is a beautiful way to forge ahead, a healing way to forge ahead that still looks with absolute open eyes and open heart at all the things that are happening. Do not turn your heart into stone to protect it as we move forward. It is going to be painful. We're going to hear more angry rhetoric, and yes, sadly, there will probably be some violence. Right now, I know they're boarding up the windows of different businesses downtown, and it makes me so sad that even has to happen. The thing that we founded our nation on was a peaceful transition of power, and that is important and paramount in order for us to be a democracy. However, it wasn't always this simple. And when I look at my father in this picture, I'm reminded, as I've shared with many of you before, about how when he was sworn in St. John the Divine, there was an article in the newspaper on him and many others, thousands of others, that were being sworn in that day for World War II. And on the back of that newspaper, I saw an article about Civil War veterans getting together. That means my father was alive when Civil War veterans were alive and still gathering. And if that puts things in perspective, we start realizing that my father was alive during the time when the Ku Klux Klan was still burning crosses in the yard. He and my grandmother and my grandfather put up with that stuff, that insanity. So whatever insanity we see right now, back then there were lynchings, burning crosses, the Klan running wild. They made it through that. They made it through pandemics like polio. They made it through so much difficulty through the Great Depression. My grandmother and others made it through the Spanish flu. And then you start looking back even further, what her parents did, my great-grandparents, who really, really lived through that Civil War. We can realize that our ancestors went through so much more hell. They went through hell on earth to come through and reconcile and put down the bones of our nation and create the foundations of our nation. They went through hell on earth for all of us. So no matter how insane we feel things are right now, no matter how irreconcilable we fear our nation is right now, it used to be much more so. And the pandemics were even worse. And they still took all the things, the scraps, all the broken hearts, and they rebuilt the nation after the Civil War. And they rebuilt the nation after MLK's death. And they rebuilt the nation again and again and again. And that's just 3 generations I talked about right there. And here we are, wherever we are, whoever you are. Remember, in you and the legacy of whatever path in life you come from, you are the result of all those generations that survived so much more insanity to be where you are now. So, whatever happens down the pike, know that we are tomorrow's ancestors, and like them, like our own ancestors, We have that responsibility, that sacred responsibility to lead our nation with integrity, with compassion, with the conviction that understands that this nation is an ever-evolving experiment, sociological experiment, that challenges each generation to improve upon the last. So instead of looking at conservatives versus progressives, remember those conservatives are necessary to maintain the foundations won by the progressives of yesteryear. Isn't that the ironic thing? And remember that the progressives are the ones who are constantly evolving and building and taking things forward and helping it to be more inclusive. All of us are carrying those torches forward. So instead of being intimidated, instead of being fearful, remember you are the result of the strength of millions who work together so that we could thrive. And that is the beauty of being part of this great nation. So vote, whatever your vote is, and do it knowing that you are part of a whole human family. It is as deep as that. You are the ever-evolving legacy, and we must live with no less integrity, no less compassion, no less conviction than that understanding as we learn to work together with those who seek opposite agendas. And we have to take it upon ourselves, the understanding that those who seem absolutely opposed to us are those we must learn to live with. And however extreme they are, I guarantee you they were not nearly as extreme as those in the Civil War. I guarantee you they were not nearly as extreme as those that were lynching people. I guarantee you they were not nearly as extreme as the people that are burning crosses in my family's yard. And yet, things did change. And my own organization, the Minnesota Institute, Ken Campbell came forward and told me that his grandfather was the one burning crosses in my grandparents' yard. That's the change. That's the hope. So as we move forward with this incredible task ahead of us, I know that it's terrifying. I know that many of us are worried about our country. But know that your ancestors put so much more strength and conviction in helping our nation to become what it is today. And they faced what seemed insurmountable and were still able to heal and build and reach across different agendas and learn to find the common humanity in opposites. And we owe them that, to do no less than they did. And we owe it for the future too. Thank you. Those are my 2 cents. Love to all. Get out there and vote, and do it with the understanding that it's a sacred responsibility, not just to our nation, but to our families before us and those who came after us. Love to all.